Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to another Motivational Monday on Justin and the Food Entrepreneurs Podcast. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host, and today I have with me again Mark Shortt of the Mark Explains podcast.
What's up, everyone, and what's up, Justin?
How are you? I thought we did so well last week. We might as well do another one.
We stumbled through that, and it turned out really well.
Yeah, but we were just trying to see what happens, and it turned out.
Yeah, I'm really glad to be on. Thank you so much. Again, I'm Mark Shortt. I host the podcast Mark Explains the Universe, and you can find it on iTunes and Podbean, along with Justin's incredible podcast, the one that you're listening to, Justin and the Food Entrepreneurs. It's on like every platform of podcasting available in the universe, basically.
Yeah, I don't do anything half-assed. I haven't found much success in it unless I put my whole self into it, my whole heart, my whole soul, as we talked a little bit about last week.
A little bit, yep. So what are we talking about today?
Today we're going to talk about love, and we're going to talk about loving oneself, and I believe you're about to do an episode on that as well on your show.
I am. I think it's going to either release here in a few days or in a week in a few days, just depends on how quickly I can turn it around. But how exactly, because this is Motivational Monday, so how does love play into motivation?
Well, you know how I love using quotes from famous individuals. So today I'm going to use Lucille Ball, who, of those of you in the audience who might not know who she is, she's I Love Lucy, which was quite a hit show. I don't know if you would call it a sitcom, but maybe.
Maybe.
And it was quite a brilliant show about Lucille Ball, and she's quite an actress. But her quote is, "Love yourself first, and everything else falls into line." You really have to love yourself to get anything done in this world. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about loving oneself and what it means in being an entrepreneur and a food entrepreneur, in my opinion. And Mark's here, and so it's a good crossover for our shows because both of us kind of stumbled upon this at the same time. So we thought we'd do another episode together and see where it takes us. Yeah, I know, it only gets better. And so, I mean, for loving oneself, that was hard for me, honestly. That took me a long time to love myself enough where other people could love me. I didn't realize, as a kid, I was so hard on myself. I was harder on myself than most people. I really took things personally, and I was sensitive, and I really cared about what other people thought about me.
Well, actually, I'll give a little bit of a spoiler for those that might want to listen to the podcast that I'm going to come out. It's just talking about loving yourself because it's so important. How are we supposed to be able to show love and be love in this world if it doesn't start within you? And I'll give a little bit of a spoiler. I'm going to start the podcast out by telling a little story about me. I was raised religious in some capacities, and I remember there was a point later on in my life, I must have been 24 or 25 years old, and I was down in Southwest Florida, and I was at it was some kind of a religious retreat of sorts, and I remember I was standing at the back of the room. I always had a hard time paying attention to those things, but I always went for the girls because why not? And I remember I was standing and I looked up, and the guy came on, the speaker man came on, and he said there are two laws that Jesus put into place, and he said to love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. And I remember thinking, oh yeah, I've heard those, everyone's heard those. And he said, we're not going to talk about the first one, we're going to talk about the second one, and that is to love your neighbor as yourself. And he said, but a lot of you can't love your neighbors because you don't love yourself. And I remember it vividly like a punch in the gut. It was like he was talking right to me, and I remember I audibly said, I remember thinking, nope, I'm not ready to hear this, because he was pulling such dark demons that I had hidden for so long that I did not love myself. And that was that was a lot of baggage that I carried. And my inability to love others started with my inability to love myself.
Yeah, I think that actually goes back to last week's episode as well, and the fear of loving oneself. I mean, because we're afraid of we're afraid of the judgment of ourselves and the things we don't like about ourselves, for sure. And I would actually love to see starry-eyed Mark at 25 years old up there looking out at the crowd and having an epiphany, a moment of clarity, if you will.
Oh, man. Well, I shut down. I don't remember anything else about the night. I don't remember anything. All I remember is that moment and then thinking, nope, and I checked out and I didn't even listen to what he had to say.
I was probably in my early 30s, probably around the age of 30, and I would say, actually, ironically, it was my soccer number for a long time. I was probably about 33 years old before I really got the concept. So you were a little younger than I was. So not too long ago, but where the whole concept of loving yourself really came around, because I think I tried to love other people and give other people so much because I didn't love myself. I felt if they loved me, I would feel loved myself or feel that I love myself. But what really happened is once I learned to love myself, my whole world opened up. And I think you attract a lot more people by loving yourself and being a good giving person and, and giving out the love. And you mentioned Jesus a little bit, and while we're not a religious show, we are entrepreneurs and we do get motivation and guidance another way. But to me, that's what we're supposed to do as human beings, is love one another and be forgiving and try to move forward, as we talked about last week. And in moving forward, it shows love.
Yeah, I think what we need to do, I think the whole purpose of this Motivational Monday is self-examination. To, if you're driving right now, or maybe you're listening at work, to take a moment and to look in, to have self-inflection, to kind of see the parts of your life that you don't necessarily love, maybe the parts of your past that you don't necessarily love, and to pull those into light, because that's how we grow, that's how we heal, that's how we move forward, is to pull the ugly parts, to pull the nasty parts into light, so that way they don't hide anymore. So that way you don't make them into something bigger or something greater than they really are. Because, the monster that's hiding in the dark is probably small, but he sounds big and can really, really put fear, to hit back on last week, back into your life in ways that you don't even want to face it.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, looking inside and taking some time to do that, and really, it's hard, right? There are things we don't like about ourselves, for sure. And whether it's physical or emotional or whatever it is, we all have them. And, loving yourself or giving yourself a hug, or sometimes just asking someone for a hug. I think I'm a big hugger, just so everyone knows. I hug a lot. I give everyone hugs.
Yes, he does.
I don't know, because I need them sometimes, because it makes me feel good. But two, because I know how other people need them, and when it's a good thing, and we should give more hugs. I don't know why we handshake so much. It seems so informal. If I could change one thing about humanity, it's that we just hug each other. Actually, if it came down to it, and loving oneself is my being vulnerable enough to hug someone. Like, I'm okay. Like, I'm a man, right? I'm going to give, people like, oh, that's a little bit wimpy. I've heard people say, and shake hands, and it's a manly thing to do. Guess what? I'm a big teddy bear. I'm going to hug the shit out of you. But anyway, so you got to hug yourself a little bit, but loving yourself is hard. It's not an easy thing to do, because we're often our own worst enemies, and we're critical. And in business, we're really hard on ourselves, and we don't realize that sharing those vulnerabilities and the things we dislike about ourselves with other people actually helps us love ourselves, but it also helps the people around us.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you mentioned business, because we have this false dichotomy that we create in our minds between life and business, between work and play, in a sense, between what you do at home and what you do at work. We create that dichotomy in our minds because, like, if I go to work, I have to be this one person, I have to be this one thing. But when I come home, I can be this other thing. So I can be loving and soft and strong at home, but when I'm at work, I need to be hard and rigid, and I cannot bend, otherwise I'll break, and you don't want to see me break. But that dichotomy is creating within you these different people. And I think the self-love that we're talking about starts by bridging the gap and realizing that dichotomy is false, that divide between who you are at work and who you are at home is not a real thing. You need to become soft and also strong, to have a soft heart but a strong core in who you are in every aspect of life. Otherwise, when you're done working, when you're done business at your place of business, you're going to realize these people aren't even friends. They're just colleagues that listen to you maybe because you were in charge. I know you talked a little bit about that when you were on our show about an individual that when he retired and he had no friends because they listened to who he was, but they didn't respect or love him. Don't create the divide. Pull that in and begin to love yourself at work and begin to love yourself at home and become that same consistent person all the way through.
I agree with that 100%. And it's crazy. We do that. We do divide our life into work and business and home. And, we spend more time with the people we work with probably than anyone else, other than maybe our wife and kids, or significant other and kids, I should say. And that's incredible. I mean, something that I've started doing at work is I took the hug theory into my work. I hug people. I try to do a better job, and in food that's a little hard because some of the people have food all over them, but whatever, screw it, right?
I have food all over
I was
me
a
no
kid
matter
that
what.
played in the mud. I'm like not even kidding. I loved it. I ate dirt for sure. But the thing is how do we actually show love to people? Because it is more productive when we aren't ruling with anger or demand or that whole thing. If we come from a point of love and give love to people, we are more successful leaders. I think leadership through love is way better than not. I have to say it, in my opinion, and from what I've seen and read and things like that when people love the people that they lead and they love truly, we talked about Martin Luther King in the first episode, but that goes way farther and leaves a way longer impression on people and on society and culture than the opposite, which is leading by iron fist and not by love, by fear, which we talked about last week.
Yeah.
We don't want people to be fearful. If they're being afraid, they're doing it because they have to, not because they want to.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that this is this goes all the way back, like to pull the love or to pull the self-love into light, to pull those things that you don't love into the light can be a really challenging, really, really tough thing. And you even mentioned Martin Luther King in the first episode. Well, we're going to pull him into this Motivational Monday because he said the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in times of challenge and controversy. And I think that beginning to love yourself can be a really challenging thing because we are brought in a society where self-image is promoted over self-love, and where ultimately how you treat people is secondary to the image that you show on social media. And these are the things that we need to begin to reduce because everything starts with love. The whole reason why we're here, the whole reason why we're on this earth is not to be successful in business, but to show love. And if success through business and success through life happens, then we now get to carry that love into those things. But if you are successful, if you have created this empire, but you die without love, honestly, you've died without anything.
No, I agree. And I want to talk about that social media thing a little bit, and self-love. And actually what we have, social media is this weird thing that has kind of corrupted this image. I feel like maybe it's always been corrupt. I don't know. I haven't lived long enough to truly figure it out. But I think it's interesting when we post so many pictures of ourselves on there and we are really looking for likes. And it's a heart, which is interesting because a heart can represent love. And everyone likes something or loves something or whatever, and we're totally loving ourselves based on how many likes we get if we do a photo on there. And I'm like, how about being yourself? How about getting real love? And that's, you're trying to get love from other people and trying to get love by doing those things, and that's not loving oneself. That's really just trying to fill a void and having other people fill a void of loving you or getting as many likes as you can on social media.